Welcome to Nifty 50 Photographers. In today's video, I'm going to give you some top tips of what to look for when you're buying your first serious camera. I'll also tell you the one type of camera I wouldn't buy now. So let's have a look at 5 different things you consider. So the first of all is probably price. Now when you start out in photography, you want to set yourself a budget of how much you're willing to spend. And the bad news is it'll probably still give you a lot of choices. For example, if you set a maximum budget of say £1,000 or £500 or $1,000, $500, you'll still find you get lots of choices. So the way to narrow that down is give yourself a range. Say I'm going to spend between 200 and 500 or between 800 and 1,000. That way it'll help to narrow down the range, help to make your choice a little bit easier. Now, when you are setting that budget, remember that other things you're going to have to add. Maybe you'll need a case to carry it around. If you're looking at camera bodies, you'll need a lens, so you definitely need to allow more money for that. And you'll need other little things like memory cards and perhaps a spare battery. So secondly, let's think about the type of camera you're going to buy. Now if you're serious about photography, you're probably going to decide you want something with interchangeable lenses. Now the reason for that is most cameras are often supplied with a kit lens, which will give you a range that will cover most everyday photography. But as you get more and more into your hobby, then you're going to start to think about, oh, actually, I'm really into wildlife and sports, so I want a big telephoto lens. Or maybe you're into landscapes and architecture and you want a wide-angle lens. So bear that in mind. Now, interchangeable lens cameras, traditionally they come as DSLRs, that's a digital single lens reflex. But now there's another option of mirrorless cameras. Now I said there was one camera I wouldn't buy right now, and that's the digital SLR. I would go straight to mirrorless. The reason for that? If you look at all the big brands like Nikon, Canon, Sony and so on, all their development is going into mirrorless cameras in these type of products. And that's why I would home in on that. Don't get me wrong, there's still some great bargains out there for DSLRs, but ultimately you're going to end up grading to a mirrorless if you're serious about your hobby over the years. Now if you don't have the budget, you can look at things like point and shoot cameras and bridge cameras. Just a word of warning, your phone's camera, and they get better every year, it's probably as good as a lot of point and shoot cameras. Some bridge cameras will be better because they have better lenses on them. But that's one thing to consider if your budget is tight. The other thing to do if your budget is tight is look at second-hand cameras. Cameras change every year. There's a new model, it's the greatest, has more megapixels, better image stabilization, etc, etc. But last year's model is still a great camera, and when they announced it last year, it had amazing features. So don't be scared of buying something second-hand, especially if you get it from a reputable dealer and you can get a warranty with it. So let's talk now about the third thing, and that's megapixels. How many megapixels do you need? In all honesty, I wouldn't even worry about it. Most beginners mirrorless cameras today will give you something like 24 megapixels, probably in the range of 16 to 38. All those will be good enough to get you started and get you into your hobby. You don't need anything more than that. For most of my everyday professional work, I'm using a camera that has 24 megapixels. The resolution is perfectly good for all my clients because most of the photos just end up online. So you don't need masses of resolution for that. If you're going to get into other things where you need extreme performance in low light like astrophotography or probably wildlife photography, then it might become an issue. But first of all, I would start with a beginner's camera in the range I've mentioned. Then you can always upgrade later on when you've worked out which direction you're going with your photography. The fourth thing I would consider is lens options. What I mean by this is make sure there is a good range of options available for the model of camera you want to buy. Now I switched to Sony mirrorless cameras a few years ago, and initially the range was a little bit limited. Now it's very good, and you can also buy interchangeable lenses from other manufacturers like Sigma, Tamron and so on. So I've got a wide choice of options, and that's what you should look for when you're buying your first camera. Make sure there's a good choice of options, because that'll mean you can find something in your budget, and it'll also mean something to suit your style of photography. And the fifth thing I would consider is the ease of use, the ergonomics, how it feels in your hand. If you get a chance, go to a camera shop that has the models you're interested in. Actually pick them up, see how they feel in your hand, and play about with the menu system. Does it seem intuitive? Do you think you would get on with it? Because that's going to be an important part of your photography experience. If you get out and find your camera is confusing to use, then you're going to struggle to find the features you need when you want to get that special shot. So I would make sure that you're really comfortable with that. Also make sure it feels durable and solid and rugged. You know, if you're going to do things like landscapes and wildlife, you're going to be outdoors, you're going to be using your camera in harsher environments, and you need to make sure it withstands those. So those are 5 things I would definitely consider. Now there might be some other things you should take into account. Perhaps you want to film some video, in which case I'd check it has 4K capabilities. So my parting thought would be, think about the style of photography you're interested in and the other areas of photography that you might like to explore, and that will help tailor your choice a little bit as to which one you want to go for. The other thing I would say is don't stress about it. If you buy a camera from a reputable brand like Nikon, Canon, Sony, Olympus, Pentax and so on, Fuji, you're going to get a good camera that will get you great results. It's not so much about the gear, it's about the person who's behind the gear that produces the great photograph. And all of the available options today will help you do that. So don't worry about it too much. Set your budget, find something that you find easy to use and you're comfortable with, and more importantly, go out and have some fun, get some practice and enjoy taking those photos. Now, what you should watch next is my playlist on the Beginner's Guide to Photography, where I go through all the photography terms and help you understand how to get the best out of your camera. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.